some reason or another, y'all are comfortable enough with that. See, I actually believe that in our community, specifically the black community, right, folks, we're going to let y'all in on a little conversation, but if you say anything, I swear for God. That's my grandmother say, I swear for God. You know, there ain't that many of y'all here, we all know who you are. And we know you don't live in here. I joke with white people. So, one of the things that I know is that you have a system that is benefiting the adults. And when it benefits the adults, that means that they're the only ones who are going to have a career when this whole thing is done. How is it possible for somebody to get a raise when they haven't raised results? How is it possible to get longevity pay when all you've done is stay there a long time? You see, I have no tolerance for unions and things of that nature, especially in education, because I know that they're working against the children. Don't talk to me about working conditions. Talk to me about a child who has to come to a raggedy-ass school. One that you would never send your own child to. You wouldn't send your friends' kids to. You wouldn't let anybody go to it. But you feel comfortable sending other people's kids to them. There's something deeply immoral about that. And every single person who works in a school knows who does teach and who doesn't teach. Every single one of you knows who's horrible at it and should have never entered the building today, ought to be dragged out by the hair. Because they are not there for children, they're there for a paycheck, and the kids know it. And we blame parent after parent after parent, but the parents send us the kid with the expectation that we're going to teach them. People often mistake our success for being connected to something like a charter. We are not a charter school. I'm a public school employee. Trust me, there's a superintendent who's looking for me right now. Y'all ain't seen me. There's that other guy. We are a school that operates in a community where across the street is a liquor store. Where every single day when I'm out there to greet the children, I see some form of drug paraphernalia. Every single night I fear that some of my children ain't going to make it back. Night before our quarterfinals game in football, one of our seniors got held up at knife point. Just part of what walking home looks like in the hood. We can't allow this to continue. You can't allow this to continue. Ain't nobody coming in here on a white horse or any other color horse that's going to save you. These are your problems and you are the solutions. You, Birmingham, the community that we in the North look to as a definition of change. You may not see yourselves that way, but we do. We got you on steady loop. We teaching people all the time about what y'all done. You have a proud tradition of setting the world on its ear, setting the world on fire, changing things, and you can't change the schools, really? Y'all beat back Jim Crow, Bull Connor, anybody else who was going to come. You beat them. You won only to create schools that ain't much better than the ones that you were trying to pull your grandparents out of. No more effective than those. No more capable of preparing children for this economy than those would have been. Some of them the same physical plant, and some look just as dingy as they did back then. Don't let somebody tell you it's about money. It's not about money. That's a lie. Don't let them tell you it's about the money that the schools get or the money that the parents make. That's a lie. The truth is that it's about who works in the school. If the people who work in the school treat the school like it's their children in the school, then the schools get better. We spend a lot of time having conversations about curriculum and pedagogy. I guess that matters when you write the paper. But when it really boils down to it, the reason why some schools are successful and others are not is because of the relationships that are built with the children. When you build a relationship with a child, that child will go through fire for you. And most of the schools that you see are not designed to build relationships, to make children feel like they belong to somebody. And so they come in feeling anonymous, walking through horrible situations, only to get into a place where they don't feel any better. You got to start shutting more and more schools down. It's impossible to call a building a school that doesn't educate. Simply because you're paid to be a teacher doesn't mean you are one. Simply because you have a certification that says that you're a principal doesn't mean you're good. Just because you've been doing it for a long time doesn't mean you've ever done it well one day. People always come up to me, and I'm a polite person usually, and they always come up to me, my mother's been teaching for 25 years. And I guess the next thing I'm supposed to say, that's really good. I don't know if she can teach. She might be sorry. I may not be happy to know that. There might be a community of children littered with her failures, her droppings. Simply because you do something doesn't mean you do it well. We need central offices to change their role. You can't run a school system like it's a one high school town. It just doesn't work. I know that the expectation is that these central offices will lead in instruction, but you don't have the personnel to do so. So the instruction happens where the instruction happens. The objective of the central office, therefore, has to be to monitor the results. These schools fail, shut them down. It's an abomination, as the rest of the country deals with school choice, that you don't have a charter option here. Be clear, I am not a charter fan. I am not a neighborhood fan. I am not a magnet fan. I'm a good school fan. Everything else is ridiculous. I don't get caught up in the names of the schools. And one of the things that unions will say, well, you just want to privatize education. I don't give a damn. I don't care who gets the money. I really do not. Just so we're clear, accuse me of it. Guilty, you got me. All I care about is if the kids get a good school, because I know you'll send your kid to a private school in a minute, but take a whole bunch of money from a public school. See, it ain't cool for me if you say that you support local public education, but don't eat from the same trough. Don't invite me to your house for barbecue, and then you over there eating salad. You ain't clogging up my arteries. It makes no sense to me. And we have to understand that as a community, we have to do better. The reason why the schools are allowed to fail your children is because you don't own the children either. Every single one of you could name, without looking at a single data point, the least successful schools in this system. Every single one of you. If I gave all of you a piece of paper, you could write them down. I guarantee the first 10 of them, all of you would agree on. But see, we keep schools open because we emotionally attached to them. That's my mama and them went. That was the first integrated school. That was where King walked by. See? Right there. What are you doing, man? You serious? These schools are the only thing standing between you and failure, the destruction that comes from children who don't have an education, and you and success, the joy that comes from children that do. See, children that do have a great education are safe to be around. They're good people. They say yes, sir, no, sir. The ones who don't rob you. On so many levels, they rob you. They rob you of the sanctity of being able to leave your door unlocked. Because you think, oh man, I seen that boy walk by here a few times. That little ugly boy walking by here with the thing on his head and the pants down. You see, you as a community have to get embarrassed by something. Because if I can't motivate you by the truth you knew before I got here. You knew which schools were working. That's why you decided. You came together, you said, we're going to work on the schools, get the other two tenets that we're about to do. We're just going to focus on the schools, because that's the only thing that really matters at this point. So you already know the schools are horrible. You already know. The question then becomes, at what point is that going to be bad enough for you to do something about it? I mean, really, really do something about it. Because this is the beginning, but it's not the whole story. The whole story is you got to start to shut some schools down and bring some people in here who can help the superintendent out and help you out to run some schools. You see, because what happens is, we know that if the people here could do it, it should have been done. So you ought to put your pride aside for a minute and say, well, maybe we ain't as good at this as we want to be. Maybe we can call on some help. Maybe we need to go to Jefferson and find out if they got some folks over there that want to come over here and run some of these schools. See, because a school is nothing but a building if you don't have education occurring in it. Think about this. Why on earth are we sending kids to the schools closest to their house? Would you send someone to the hospital closest to their house or the hospital that had the services that they needed? Imagine, if you will, that you could only go to the college that was closest to your house. See, in order for you to get the change that you need to make a change. Again, not the small change, the big change. You need to make categoric change in order to fundamentally transform the way in which your children are educated. You have to have the courage to say enough is a damn enough. You have to have the desire to say, you know what, I am embarrassed. I see some of these kids walking out the house in bedroom shoes and pajama pants with the fronts open on them, because they're real pajama pants. They really are pajama pants. And a rag on the head. I'm embarrassed by it. I'm embarrassed by little girls with really, really high heels and really, really short skirts. And forget the midriff. We done gave up on, that's already out. You see that the other parts that are out now, they got back the whole thing. When you get embarrassed by that, you will start to do something. Because informing you isn't enough. Just telling you politely ain't enough. It's not enough. Somebody has to come in and say something that you got to defend, and then you think, oh, they did see that. It's like us, it's black people. I'm always amazed as I sit in the car. I'm driving some white kids home, and then I'm listening to Jay-Z or somebody, and, the edited version. And I know when it gets to the part, that ends in Paris, right? And I'm thinking, what are these white kids thinking when that part of the song comes up? They're thinking what it says right there. They heard the lyrics just like I did. And that's when you start to hear the song differently. It starts to sound different when you have people in the car who hear it and you think, well, maybe they ain't really in on the joke. Birmingham, I'm not in on the joke. I can't come to an amazing city like this and lie to you. See, because I got responsibilities. I got people at home who really love me. And I got to be there for them. So for me to come here and give you anything but the truth is not going to do anyone else any good. Simply because you have nice people who work in the school doesn't mean the school is effective. There was this dude I had, I fired him, but he was a really nice dude. No, really he was a nice dude. And he taught, well, he didn't teach Spanish. He spoke Spanish. I know he spoke Spanish. I heard him speak Spanish. The problem was he was the only person in the room who could speak Spanish. I didn't pay him to perform Spanish. I paid him to teach Spanish. You understand? There's a bit of a difference there. And the teachers have to be honest. You got to ask yourself, at the end of the day, I told my teachers last week, if I was paying some of y'all on a per diem basis, you wouldn't have got paid today. This is not it, homie. Don't tell me that the mothers don't read with them. I know that. That's why you're here. If this is too tough for you, bounce. You do not have to convince me this job is hard. Why do you think I spend so much time here doing it? How nice would it be to phone it in? Yeah, y'all just go ahead and the kids just sit down, and just because you're there, you give them a book, they start to read it, and they bring in the research. Wouldn't that be nice? Come on, man, grow up. So many people are educators right now because they weren't good at something else. They really wanted to be a doctor. But they failed a bunch of classes, and all they got is chemistry. Now they're chemistry teacher. You ain't slick.